Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2025 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola, one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. Okay, fine, I know it's not the best when it comes to wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side action, and it's not the easiest to overtake on either, but it is a proper old-school track where drivers need to have their wits about them because even the slightest mistake is often punished. Plus, as proven in 2005, you don't always need overtaking to have a thrilling, tense race. Either way, don't worry if we don't see much in the way of overtaking because at least we should see plenty next week. But anyway, enough of all that waffle. Last time out F1 was in Miami where Oscar Piastri took yet another race win. But now it is on to the 4.909 kilometre, that's 3.050 mile, 19 corner. Brace yourself. Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, for round 7 of the season already. Due to the nature of the track, we have just the one DRS zone for this one, and that runs down the long straight, well, give or take a few kinks between turns 19 and the first chicane, and as you'd expect, that is where we are likely to see most of the action on the run to and through the first couple of corners. If a driver is desperate to make a pass stick, then maybe a move up the inside of turn 7 is a possibility, and perhaps, and I'll emphasise the word perhaps again, someone could try something into the 14-15 chicane, but that's highly unlikely given that 1, it would probably result in a big crash, and 2, like much of the track, it's tight and twisty and finding a way by will be tough to say the least. Since its arrival on the calendar in 1980, Imola has hosted 31 races and actually hosted the Italian Grand Prix in its first year too. The only time since the start of the World Championship the race wasn't held at Monza. It took a long break between its last race in 2006 and return in 2020, but since it rejoined the series, only 2 drivers have picked up wins at the circuit, and they are, surprise, surprise, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The Dutchman has actually picked up 3 wins at the track since its return, specifically wins at the last 3 races, and interestingly enough, that means he is tied with Michael Schumacher for most consecutive victories at Imola, the German doing so between 2002 and 2004. So that is 3 in a row for Verstappen, 3 in a row for Schumacher, and 3 plus 3 equals 6. Oh yeah, which just so happens to be the same as the number of dry tyre compounds in the whole Pirelli range. That's right, folks, it is tyre talk time once again. The compounds available for this one then are the absolute softest in the range, so they are the hard C4, the medium C5, and for the first time ever, very exciting, the soft C6. That is obviously therefore a step softer than last year. The C6 compound was introduced for use at tracks that stress the tyres the least, and it's likely going to be a great tyre for qualifying, but it might not be a compound we see used much, if at all, during the race, unfortunately. The biggest thing to look out for here is the added stress put through the tyres and indeed the suspension thanks to the high curbs around the circuit, because the track isn't especially hard in terms of the forces put through the tyres, Pirelli describing them as a, quote, low average load. The surface isn't particularly abrasive either, and degradation is limited too. And that is pretty much what we saw last year as race winner Max Verstappen made just the one pit stop, having started on the medium tyre before switching to the hards on lap 24. In fact, you'll be delighted to hear all but 3 of the drivers who finished the race made just the one stop in 2024. And given this isn't especially tough on the tyres, and given how this year has gone so far, I'd be very surprised if that's not the case again this weekend. After all, on a circuit like Imola, track position is absolutely king, and you don't want to be pitting any more than is absolutely necessary. Add to that the fact that the pit lane lost time is one of the highest of the season, and yeah, it's the perfect storm for a one-stopper. But you never know. We might get a surprise on Sunday. Let's wait and see. The weather isn't, at time of recording at least, expected to cause too many problems, with warm and dry conditions currently forecast for much of the event. However, rain is expected on Friday morning, so although not currently forecast to affect any F1 running, it could shift to later on in the day, so keep an eye on that one. It is only Wednesday as I record this. There's still a long way to go to the weekend. And back to that point very quickly about us maybe getting a surprise, because this is a tight track where the barriers and gravel traps are never too far away, safety cars are high risk at Imola, and since its return to the calendar, all but one race, that was last year, has featured at least one safety car, period. And your schedule for the Imola weekend is, for the first time in 2025, a traditional European one when it comes to the times. So FP1 will get the weekend started on Friday at 12:30 p.m. BST, and that will be followed later that same day by second practice at 4 p.m. The final practice session will kick Saturday's action off at 11:30 a.m. with qualifying underway from 3 p.m. And it will be lights out for the race on Sunday at 2 p.m. And once again, that is in UK time. And we've got a packed schedule of support action too, with Formula 2 and Formula 3 racing at Imola this weekend. Lots to look forward to. Now, before I make my usual round of exceptionally good predictions, there is one big talking point that is well worth a run through ahead of the action in Italy, and that is the situation down at Alpine. There has been a lot of chopping and changing at Alpine since the race in Miami, and not just on the driver side. On the off chance you've missed it, Alpine announced on May 6th that team principal Oliver Oakes has resigned from his position, with the team accepting his resignation and also confirming Flavio Briatore would cover Oakes' duties alongside his role as executive advisor. This news came the day before the confirmation that Alpine would, as largely expected and as part of an ongoing assessment of its driver lineup, rotate one of its race seats for the next 5 races of the season from this weekend's event at Imola. So that's Franco Colapinto replacing Jack Doohan. Pierre Gasly obviously remains where he is. And a new evaluation will be carried out before the British Grand Prix in July, the team has confirmed. Now, many, including me, felt that it would be a bit of a coincidence if Ollie Oakes' departure wasn't in some way related to the driver swap, but it turned out it really was just a massive coincidence, and it was all a hell of a lot deeper than anyone realised at the time. Oakes is understood to have travelled to Dubai shortly after the Miami Grand Prix and after his brother, William Oakes, was recently arrested and charged with transferring criminal property. According to the Metropolitan Police in the UK, Oakes' brother was arrested with a large amount of cash after he was stopped in the Silverton Park area in Northamptonshire on May 1st and appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court on Saturday, May 3rd, and was remanded in custody. Now, those are the facts as we know them right now, and this isn't something I'm going to sit and speculate about. There is plenty of that out there at the moment, largely from people who have no idea what's going on, but this is definitely a story that will continue to develop over the next few weeks, and so keep an eye out for any more official news as and when it drops. And super quickly bringing it back to this weekend, don't forget that with it being the first European race of the season and the start of a triple header, we should see a lot of updates from teams at Imola, including at Ferrari, where Fred Vasseur has already confirmed the team will bring small updates to Imola and to Monaco. Mercedes are set to bring a reasonable update package to their cars this weekend too, as they aim to cut the gap to McLaren, who it's got to be said looked incredibly dominant in Miami, didn't they? And although Red Bull were a few weeks back expected to bring a large update package for this one, Christian Horner has since said there is no big update for Imola and that we are at the stage of these regulations where it's all about incremental gains. But every team is expected to bring something, so keep an eye on the car presentations on Friday. There could be some interesting stuff on display there, and maybe we'll see some new front wings tested too, with the technical directive for Spain looming large. Right then, time to make some predictions, and as always, please do not take these too seriously. They're just a little bit of fun. But if you do disagree with my picks, which you probably should, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And last time, well, it wasn't great, let's be honest. Wrong on almost everything, apart from Verstappen on pole and a couple of half points for the McLarens making the podium in the wrong position. So that's something, better than nothing, I suppose. But let's move on. This week, sure, the updates might make a difference, but this is a very different track to Miami, so that could mix things up a bit too. But I'd be absolutely nuts not to expect another weekend where McLaren rock up as the team to beat. That said, I do think it will be closer, and I'm hopeful the updates will bring Mercedes, Red Bull, and hey, maybe even Ferrari into contention. Please let me dream. I honestly, I would love a Ferrari win at Imola. It feels like it's been so long. In fact, it has been so long. But I'm also realistic and know that they could very easily mess that up. However, I am going to go pretty much all in on McLaren for this one, and having backed Oscar Piastri for the last few, I will stick with him for pole on Saturday, but say that Lando Norris just pips him to the win on Sunday. Okay, as I've said a few times, overtaking is tough, I know that, so it might need some hot in-laps and out-laps around the pit stops for Norris, or even a well-timed safety car, but it is more than possible. As for the final step on the podium, I am going to go for the first time this season, I believe, with a Mercedes driver. Yeah, I know, not like me at all. My heart says that Kimi Antonelli will do it in front of his home fans and send them wild, but my head is screaming that if I'm going to pick a Merc driver for top 3, it has to be George Russell, given how good a job he's done so far in 2025 and the podiums he's already picked up. So I am going to go with Russell for P3. Norris, Piastri, Russell, your top 3. Elsewhere, I'll go with Red Bull as the third best finishing team on Sunday, with my separate bolder picks being for Fernando Alonso to finally score some points with a top 10 finish on Sunday. Come on, Fernando. Yuki Tsunoda makes his top 8 in qualifying, and as it is his first weekend back in the sport, let's go with a top 10 finish for Franco Colapinto on Sunday too. You never know and all that. That is it though for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix preview, but don't forget you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comment section down below. And for the latest news, analysis and reaction from the world of Formula 1, head on over to planetf1.com. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.